I'm your host, Dawn Cross, and today we'll be discussing running a tattoo studio with Joanne Sherlock, co-owner of Nomad Ink Tattoo. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to leave a rating on your favourite podcast directory. Brilliant. So could we start off with, could you introduce yourself and what you get up to?
I can. I'm Joanne Sherlock. I own and manage a tattoo studio in Wirral, just outside of Liverpool. We've just had our fourth birthday. It was our fourth birthday party on Saturday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thanks. It's the actual anniversary on Wednesday, but yeah, closed on Wednesday. Not opening for that. Did it?
No, I
Did
don't
it
blame
on
you.
Saturday? No. And yeah.
So yeah, how did you get started and how did you become an owner?
Right. Well, I worked in a completely different industry before. Me and my husband, who's a tattoo artist, we were traveling Europe in the back of a self-converted van, and we just drove around for a couple of years,
That sounds great.
living on beaches and whatever. Hence the name Nomad Ink. I did something completely different. I worked in business management and development in the early years sector of education. And he was a tattoo artist, and we got a little bit drunk, to be honest, one night. And we drew a plan on the back of a pizza box that when we got back home, we were going to work together, which we both vowed we would never do. We were like dead separate careers, all that. But we'd had a glass of wine. So we wrote this plan on the back of a pizza box, and we just did that. So when we came home, we just went, oh, okay, well then let's do that. So we opened a studio initially in Liverpool city centre, temporarily, while we were kind of working on the build of the one we've got now. So that was about 6 years ago, I would have thought. And I hadn't worked in the tattoo industry before, had tattoos. Obviously, we weren't married then, but I was with a tattoo artist, so had plenty. But it was a completely different industry for me. I can tell you that. I just kind of figured if you can work in business development and management in one area, you can do it in another. How hard can it be?
That sounds amazing. And obviously, you're happy to do it. And a lot of the skills probably very much transferable as well.
Yeah, they are now. The business is a little bit bigger. When it was just the two of us, I was used to managing massive teams and having like infrastructure, I suppose, like back office staff. So yeah, I had, if I needed something promoting, there was a marketing team as part of the company I'd be working for, or there'd be a finance department or a payroll department. And I don't think I ever really appreciated any of those other departments until I had to do it myself. But when it was just the two of us, because I was used to managing big teams, I found it quite difficult. And having to grasp for every job that comes in when you're new was quite hard, because I'd kind of taken on established businesses before, failing but established. So, your audience knew you were there. Whereas this one, of course, it's not. We came back, we'd been gone for a couple of years. So all of his customers had either gone elsewhere or, some hadn't, but a lot of them had. Because we didn't know whether we were ever coming back. When we left, we were a bit like, oh, I don't think we're ever going to come back, to be honest. We thought we might settle somewhere else. So we had to kind of sever all those ties with his customers. But now that we're bigger and there's a team to manage, and I've done a lot of training in the areas of business that I had no experience at all. So yeah, we're all right now.
No, it's great as well, because you've kind of started from the bottom and then worked your way up to where you needed to be. Yeah, it sounds like it's been very invaluable in terms of experience as well.
Yeah, it has. I've probably got more transferable skills now. I didn't have any real marketing experience, and now I'm doing a master's in digital marketing. So I always think, if it all went belly up, if one day they make a robot that can do a good tattoo and we're all out of a job, I'll go and do digital marketing somewhere else. It'll be fine.
I think we're quite far off from that, so I think you're safe.
Yeah, I don't think it's our lifetime. I hope not, anyway.
I think it's very. I just don't see it happening, or it'll kind of do like the basics or something, but then it's it probably won't be able to even just do shading properly, because if you switch and then it's like it can't sense where you are or something, that's it. You got half tattoo. I don't know.
That's
That's
it,
how I
yeah.
imagine.
I hope, yeah, well, I hope so. And the varying depths you've got to go, it's unlikely to be able to tell those. And I just think
Mm,
that we're probably going back to an age where people with skills and trades are the ones who value the most. And I'm all for that. That's all right.
mm.
People with some hands-on skills.
That's brilliant. So obviously you spoke a little bit about your experience kind of starting from fresh instead of just starting from something established. Could you tell me a little bit more about what's been like running a tattoo studio? Is there anything that surprised you at all?
It's been a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. I came from quite a customer-centric environment,
Mm,
and had, spent my whole career um, quite corporate in that respect. The customer's always right. When you work in early years in particular, quite rightly, you can't do enough for children. You can't do enough for parents. And it's never going to be good enough for
mm,
your customers either, because quite rightly, it shouldn't be. That's their children. And then you come into the tattoo industry, and it's as if the customer didn't matter at all. I was just amazed. I mean,
mm,
I would hear some stories, of course, through my husband, who he's been tattooing a long time. And I'd be like, oh, the artist on a bad day, or maybe the studio, No, it's as if the customer in the tattoo industry didn't matter at all. And
mm,
I said that if we open a studio, I wanted it to be one that I felt like I'd be able to go to, that I'd be comfortable going into, because as somebody who's not very cool, or like not very like alternative, like scene alternative,
mm.
I always found tattoo studios quite intimidating
Okay.
to go into. And I'm quite confident and can be a little bit hard faced, and I found them intimidating. So I was thinking there's got to be a whole section of people out there that are like me,
Mm,
that are, into body art. I was lucky enough, I could go to my husband's studio. He had his own studio before we had this one together, and I got mine there. That felt like a second home. That's fine.
mm,
I'd only been into other people's studios a handful of times, and I hated it.
mm,
So I always said, if we ever did work together and open up our own, the vision of that would be for people like me, really. And men and women, because people have this thing that, tattoo studios, they're probably only intimidating spaces for women. They're not all men are
mm,
kind of confident enough to walk in, and there's people there with tattoos all over their face and heavy metal music playing and smoking. There's a lot of drug taking and drinking in tattoo studios. I just go, oh, it's not, it's so far from what we wanted to create here.
mm,
um so to be honest, it's been a little bit up and down, because trying to carve a niche in a market that has got other expectations.
mm.
It's great when you find your audience, because they go, and thank God, I can actually, there's somewhere for me. We're not looking to appeal to everybody here. But until you find them, sometimes you really question yourself, and you go, oh, what are we doing? We're the only ones not making any money. Because we're just not following that pattern. But we
Mm,
stuck to our guns, and we had a really clear vision of who our customers were, and found them in the end. Um, so yeah, difficult and rewarding, a bit of a mixed bag. On a practical level, we've taken on a huge building. We bought a 3-story building, started on the ground floor, that had nothing. It barely had walls. It had holes in the floor. Thankfully,
crikey.
yeah. Thankfully, my husband and his family. My husband was a builder for 15 years before he was a tattoo artist, and his
Oh,
family are
wow.
all builders. Yeah. So we just dragged in a lot of help, and it's meant we could do the work ourselves. So that's been quite difficult. So we started just kind of one artist and me on the ground floor, and just over time, we've grown, and we're over all 3 floors now. So on a
Mm,
practical level, that's led to quite a lot of work. But operationally, like I was saying, because we were looking to find customers that didn't necessarily have a corner of the tattoo industry they could go to.
mm,
Um, it was quite slow at the beginning, because we weren't going to compromise on our standards and the things we do. I'll try and give you an example.
yeah.
So you'll know this as well as me, I'm sure. You go into a tattoo studio, there's an artist, there's a great big common room where everybody's tattooing, and an artist is busy, and you kind of have half a conversation over the person that's paying them to tattoo them
Mm,
about what you might want. And they go, yeah, great. Pay your deposit and I'll see it on this date. And that's it. And you walk in on the day of your tattoo, you see your design, you do that really British thing like you do when you get your hair done, you go, love it. I love it. Thank you very much. Thank you for spending some time drawing that just for me. Way too polite to tell you that I hate it. Or, you know, there are a few things that I would change. And you sit down in the chair and you get your tattoo and you leave and you go, oh, I'm not sure about that experience. What we do is, you know, you everything's by appointment only, consultations by appointment only, and we have a full design process, a design approval process before any tattoo appointments even booked. So once designs are done, they're invited back in, take a look at it, make any changes they want, and we don't make any appointments until the customer's absolutely happy. So that when they arrive for their tattoo, it's actually their third visit to the studio.
Okay.
And our artists only tattoo 3 days a week because the other 2 days a week are spent doing bespoke design. And what it means is that artists aren't just having a look at what's in the book the next day and quickly throwing a design together the night before, because it can't possibly be the best design it can be if it's just been done the night before when you're tired and you've been tattooing all day. It's factored into the artist's working week because we're wanting to take on this bespoke work. You need to factor in the time to design it, but that slows down the whole process. And in an industry that half relies on people's spontaneous decisions, and we're going, whoa, slow down, you know, don't make this decision spontaneously. It's a massive decision. You're looking for a full sleeve here. This is a whole limb. Let's make it look like the Instagram pictures that you're actually sending in, and putting people down and kind of charging them for the privilege of it taking forever has been a bit of a difficult niche to carve. But it's been well worth it, because the artists aren't stressed. They're actually doing the work they want to do. So as a result, what comes out is excellent. So yeah, mixed bag. But now that we've found our feet a little bit, we're all right.
No, that sounds amazing. I really like the idea of as well. I think if you're in an unfamiliar place, you know, especially if, for example, going for your first tattoo, going in, it can just feel intimidating anyway, because maybe you've not done it before. So what you're saying about having, like, by the time you get to the third appointment, or even, you know, you're actually getting tattooed on the fourth time you've walked in, you'll probably feel more comfortable with the place. And if you spend a long time there because you're getting a tattoo, it's not, you know, a quick thing. You know, you'll actually feel more comfortable, and it's really great for the customer, but also for the tattoo artist. Then they can get to know the person a bit more as well. So there's just comfortable all round, which sounds incredible.
Yeah, I always think getting a tattoo is quite a vulnerable experience for people. I don't know, not everybody feels like this, and I get that we're not people that wouldn't dream of, but like there are some people who getting a tattoo, part of that experience is, you know, the big common room, the heavy metal music, the edgy environment. The tattoo artist might be having a drink or a smoke. That for some people, that is all part of the experience, and there are studios for them, and that's great. But for us, and you know, there are lots of people like me that just isn't the case, and I do think it was intimidating before. I know I certainly felt that. Similarly, I don't think all artists want to work in that environment either. All of our artists have private rooms, so all of our tattoo rooms are private. So you walk in, there's a reception, and then each room has got, it's a different, obviously different part of the building. They've got their own, and they can decorate it the way they want. You know, there's TV in there, so customers can choose what movies to watch, or like music, and it just means that you haven't got to compromise with your other artists. You know, we've got one artist that loves musicals and is quite calm and serene, and their room is full of plants, and that's the kind of tattooing that she does, all very botanical and quite girly. You know, we've got another artist who loves to do black work and horror, so his room is reflective probably of the kind of customers that are coming to him for that work. So it means that they don't need to compromise either, and the customer is being tattooed in that vulnerable position in an environment that suits them, because I think you're with somebody you don't know well, even if with us you've only met them 2 or 3, maybe 4 times, and somebody's hurting you and you're probably in a state of undress. And what a vulnerable position to be in, you know, and if that then is in a massive room where there's lots of beds and there's lots of noise and everyone's being tattooed together and people are walking past and having a little look and, you know, what are you up to? And you're thinking, oh, this is actually really, this is hurting me. And, you know, I'm a bit uncomfortable because, you know, I might have my top just pulled around me or
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable. So the whole purpose of it was to just kind of strip all that like cool away
Mm.
and just make it feel a bit more accessible, I think, to people who just aren't really into that.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing. 'Cause even if you're in like a big common room as well, the noise level, if you're sensitive to noise, or
Oh,
maybe you're
yes.
autistic and that sort of thing, it could be very overwhelming when you're already having an experience that isn't necessarily within your comfort zone. Or maybe there's people who, has a comfort zone of, I love it when I'm getting tattooed, which is completely fair enough.
Yeah, you
And
do you. It's not me.
yeah, and it's really great because then you can you almost choose your experience because there's privacy, and also based on the artist as well. You were saying with musicals, you could easily just then watch Beauty and the Beast or something with them and have a
Yeah,
good
you could.
time, and just make it absolutely unique, which I think is amazing. And congrats to you guys being able to carve out that part and actually
Thanks.
thrive in it as well. So I wanted to I wanted to pick your brains. You're saying obviously you're doing digital marketing masters, which funny enough, snap, so am I. I
Oh,
would
are
love,
you? Well,
yeah,
as I am, I've just taken a little break. It's so hard.
it's honestly a lot of work. My brain is
Yeah,
mush at the moment,
yeah.
personally. Um, I'd love to know a bit more about your kind of like tattoo marketing perspective. And you're saying also about lasers, if we could go in a bit more depth about that.
Yeah, so when I first started, the marketing was like everybody. You've, I didn't have really much idea what to do. I had my own personal social media, and that was about it. It was all a little bit ad hoc, wasn't very focused, wasn't very consistent and committed, really.
Mm,
Um, I did a little bit of training. We've got a brilliant organisation called the Women's Organisation in Liverpool,
yeah.
and they support women in business, so female business owners, to kind of get them off the ground with the basics of things. So kind of introduce the topics, and then it's kind of up to you to, run off and learn more about that.
Yeah.
So years and years and years ago, I got in touch with them, and they really helped point me in the right direction. So did that, kind of exhausted my knowledge there, and then did some more kind of online digital marketing courses. Still found I wasn't really getting anywhere. Was wondering why everybody else seemed to be way more successful than me, and nobody was watching and nobody was responding, and business was growing, but I think that it felt like that was solely off the back of the quality of the tattoos. I don't think I
Mm,
was particularly influencing it. Um, and then over time, started to find my feet, started to find that as I was signing up for these digital marketing, like online courses and with different people, I was watching them thinking, oh, I could teach this. Like, I already know this, I'm already doing it. Because I'd become much more focused, particularly on Instagram and a little bit on TikTok, although I am TikTok resistant because I'm old. So I get a little bit weirded out by it.
fair enough.
And I actually I don't have any of my own social media anymore. I'm nearly 40 years old. I get a little bit like overwhelmed with social media. Like you were saying before, if you're somebody who does get overwhelmed with, sensory things, social media, all that, you, you're not necessarily engaging with the companies that you like in that way either. So I try not
Mm,
to get too caught up on the fact that I'm not, posting 4 times a day, and I'm not. It's not necessarily who we are as a business either. So I've got to balance
mm,
those things. And then it kind of reached a point where I didn't have a marketing plan. I found that I did my own planning, for example, on a Sunday for the following week of
mm,
content that I wanted to put out, tattoos that had been done, different things like that. But I didn't have a marketing plan, and I desperately wanted one. And try as I might to try and find somewhere, a corner of the internet that would just tell me how to do that. Um, Everything that I read was completely different. And I thought, right, I'm going to train in it. I'm going to train in it. I felt like I do all the jobs in this studio that aren't tattooing. So absolutely every single job that isn't tattooing or art is mine. And I reached a point where I needed help with it, and I was either going to need to take on marketing help or operational help. I hate admin, so I decided to take on operational help.
Fair enough.
Somebody else. I reached a point where I needed to play to my strengths, and my time was better spent marketing the business than it was doing admin, because who likes that? Not me. So that's what I did. So quite recently, earlier on this year, took on some administrative support. I've got a receptionist now and some admin support. And I applied to do a master's in digital marketing from absolutely nothing. I had my other degree, my undergraduate degree was in education. It was in something completely different. And really found my feet, like massively enjoying the course. Got to the end of the first module. I'm taking a break between the first and second. So I'm really early on in it, just while I catch up on some different aspects of work. But in that time, I've realised that as a small business, your marketing plan is your business plan. There isn't another one. It's written, you know, and we're working from it, and there's been massive improvements already, and laser tattoo removal is on it, which is kind of how we came about speaking together when I emailed you back, is because for me, it was something I had thought about before, but kind of thought, you know, maybe one day in the very distant future, it might be something to consider. And we had a laser therapist in a different location that we would send a lot of people to. And then through the beginning of the Masters in Digital Marketing, realised that we are massively missing a trick, and that the laser tattoo industry is a supporting industry of ours, not an opposite industry. It's completely changed the way I think about it, I think.
No, that sounds absolutely amazing. And so do you reckon then I guess part of your plan that you'll offer laser removal in future?
Yeah, it's difficult because you look and there are lots of studios that offer tattoo laser removal. And then I started to do my research, and these machines are massively expensive. You know, they're tens of thousands of pounds. Some of them are hundreds of thousands of pounds. And I'm going, what? How are they getting these machines to do it anyway? On further research, you realise that the laser tattoo removal industry is as woefully unregulated as the tattoo industry. And actually what these are cheap machines. They're IPL machines. They're for hair removal, which isn't the right thing. So they don't do a good job, blah, blah, blah. Which is why you have lots of them open up and then close, because people aren't returning as customers because it's not doing the right job. And being who we are, you know, we now have got a reputation for, our customers trust us with the quality of the work and the quality of the materials. We're going to have to feed that into laser tattoo removal as well. So only the best machines are going to do. And they are so expensive, it's untrue. I mean, you can lease them, but again, it feels like another market that's going to need to be carved a little bit. We're going to be expecting people to pay more with us than they would with someone else, but of course the results are going to be better. You know, the training we would insist on would also be there, but it needs it. So some of the things that I learned as part of my studies in this is that last year or the year before, I think it was last year, tattoo laser removal as an industry took over the tattoo industry in terms of revenue for the first time. So laser tattoo removal as an industry worldwide is now worth more than the tattoo industry.
Okay.
So I think when I first got into the tattoo industry, my thoughts on it were having a tattoo studio with a tattoo laser removal service sent the wrong message. And then really quickly I realized, well, that's stupid. That was wrong. You know, that's not the way it is at all, because actually we get so many inquiries for cover-ups. And I very quickly realized that laser tattoo removal is a key component in, you know, achieving successful cover-ups for people. And because we don't have one, and, you know, as much as I can go to this place, they're really good, they don't necessarily. So we end up turning away more cover-ups than we take, because as a studio, we're not going to take it on if we can't make it look gorgeous at the end. Quite often it needs lightening with laser before you can do that, so we turn a lot of them away. So if we had one, we'd be able to offer that service in-house, as part of our tattoo service rather than opposing it, which I think is probably the way I was thinking about it initially. And yeah, I think as the technology is getting better, and as they're not burning people anymore because they're much better than machines, and people are getting a little bit wise to that, I think it's a really important supporting industry to the tattoo industry. And like I say, it's overtaken it in terms of revenue, and it's going to be really important, I think, to our growth. And I think as well, thinking about things more personally, we're in an industry of giving people body parts that they love. That's all very well and good on a blank canvas. You go, yeah, great, give it to us. And I know that any one of my 3 artists is going to give you the kind of tattoo that turns heads in the street. I know that. But if you've already got a part of your body that's got tattoos on it that you just hate, and you dread the summer coming because you think, oh, I've got to put a vest on, or I'm going to put shorts on, I've got this god-awful tattoo that I got when I was 16 in some back studio. If we need to be able to fix that for people. We need to be able to be the place that people go for good advice, safe and reliable removal, and then a cover up if that's what they're looking for. So yeah, it's key. I think it's key to the growth and development of the tattoo industry.
No, it sounds great. And as well, like you were saying, it'd be really great to be able to lighten something, to work more color into something, instead of just covering up with a big mass of, with
Black.
pink, and it's not as great as it could be. To have that would be amazing, and obviously make people happy at the end of the day. And then you've got beautiful artwork everywhere on everybody's bodies.
Yeah, there's got enough reason to hate your body. Like, let's not make the decisions that we made at 18 and 19 be one of the reasons to hate part of your body. And I think in theory, anything can be covered, but we won't cover anything unless we can make it almost as good as it would have been had there not been a cover up there in the first place. Because the problem with that is, if somebody comes in with something very dark and that covers all of the area that it sits in, so there's no space alongside it to distract the eye with something else. The problem with compromising the artwork to do the cover up is that you've then got a very compromised tattoo walking around out there from Nomad Ink. So when people go, well, who did your tattoo? They don't go, oh, it was Lewis at Nomad Ink, but it was a cover up and he was really compromised, and that's kind of why it looks a bit like that. They just go, it was Lewis at Nomad Ink. And that's really poor. It's counterproductive as a business trying to grow off the back of excellent tattooing. So sometimes we kind of have to go, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to try and cover that, because to cover it, the design would have to be so poor. It'd have to be compositionally poor. It'd have to be too dark. It'd have to, have no breathing room at all. That it's not going to make a good tattoo. So actually, if you can go get 3 sessions of laser on it, break it up so that it's not quite so dark, and then let's make something lovely. It's good business practice, because then you're not then tempted to take on cover-ups that just you're not going to get a good result from.
Oh, definitely. So moving on to our final question for today. What would you tell those looking to get into the tattoo industry, whether it be from an artist or maybe like you, doing more marketing or kind of running a studio?
I get asked this a lot by people who come to us for apprenticeships and things. And my advice is going to be really different to other studio owners' advice, because I'm coming at it from a completely different perspective. So I'll explain. The artists in our studio are all niche. We've got one portrait artist, that's all he does. Realism and portraits. We've got one illustrator. She was a commissioned illustrator before she was ever a tattoo artist. And we've got one black work and line work artist. They're all canvas artists. They were all commissioned canvas artists before they ever learned to tattoo. And tattooing is just another medium that they use. So they're also, I've got 2 that work in oils. I've got one that works in watercolor and acrylics as well. I've got one that airbrushes as well. Actually, he did that for years before he was a tattoo artist. And what that means is that if they're doing their niche, their specialism day in, day out, that they become excellent at it. And the problem with the tattoo industry as a whole is that you walk into a studio and the studio just wants to make as much money from you as they can. So what they need is an all-rounder that can do anything that walks through the door. When actually what that means is that it stops you from ever becoming excellent at the tattoo or art style that really calls to you, that really sings to you. Because how can you be? If you could spend 40 hours a week doing illustration, you're very quickly going to become excellent at illustration. If you're spending 40 hours a week doing names and infinity signs when you desperately want to be a colour illustrator, you're never going to get there. So when people come to us and I ask to see their portfolio, even if we're not looking for an apprentice, because I try and make sure everyone gets a great experience of reaching out to the studio. So I'll try and give advice if it's wanted. I ask first. Nobody wants unsolicited advice. If they want advice, I'll try. And if they send me a portfolio and I can't see who they are as an artist, I send them away to work on it again and say to them that have a look. Don't just look at what's local. Get online and see who the world's best tattoo studios are and have a look at these studios that they work in. And I bet them and everybody else that works there have all got their own niche. And it means sometimes turning work away because it's not your thing, but it means that much quicker you end up with all your customers want all your work and all your bespoke, and you can put out designs and people go, I know who did that, because that's what it looks like. You can do training courses with your favorite artists. Our realism artist has done 2 training courses with one of the world's best realism artists. He travels to London to do those, because why wouldn't you? You know, if you are really sure of who you want to be as an artist, it means that you can invest and know that it's a good investment. So my advice would be, if you want to be an artist in this industry, figure out who you are as an artist. Look at the world's best in that style, the world's best. Don't look at the studio down the road or the studio around the corner. Look at the world's best artists in that style and aim there, because the kind of studios that you want to work in are looking for that. You'll find it easier to walk into one and go, I want to do all your studio work. That really suits some people. It really does suit some people. But if you don't want to be doing that forever and ever and ever, figure out who you are and aim there, even if it means at first it takes a little bit longer, because this industry is full of all-rounders that can put your names on and your infinity signs on. We don't need any more of them. We need excellent artists in their own right to learn how to tattoo, and that's where all your world's best are coming from. They all do art in other mediums, not just in tattooing. So that is always my advice to people that come looking for apprenticeships and looking for a little bit of, to be pointed in the right direction, really.
That's absolutely brilliant. Was there anything else you'd like to add before we close out the episode?
There was one thing about laser tattoo removal. That's one thing that I meant to say when you were asking about how the courses kind of helped push us in that direction. One of the things that I did learn was that there's been multiple studies lately over the last couple of years about like perceived employment suitability of people with tattoos, and I think that's really key in our industry to the shift. The mindset shift towards people with tattoos. There's been a massive change there, because we've now passed the 50% mark, certainly in this country, of people with tattoos and without. There's been a massive shift. All of the studies have concluded that perceived suitability for employment of people with tattoos is improving very, very quickly. And actually, there are some industries that are actively seeking out people with a more alternative look to work in their stores to future-proof their businesses. Burberry, I think, was one of them, because it means that when young people are walking past, they see people that look like them in the store and they go in. The way that links to laser tattoo removal is all of the studies found that it wasn't actually people having tattoos that got in their way in certain circles. It was the type of tattoos that they had. So poor tattoos, quality tattoos was actually the thing that got in the way rather than having tattoos itself. And I think the laser tattoo removal industry is going to be key in that shift continuing, that mindset shift continuing around the the employability of people with tattoos, because it's now being shown that, like I say, in lots of industries, it's not having tattoos that is getting in your way, it's the standard of the tattoos that people have got.
Oh, definitely. Well, thank you so much today for sharing your knowledge. It's been really great to speak to you further on, I guess, like a different perspective than a tattoo artist.
Yeah, thanks for asking me. They probably would say completely different things, but there we go.
Thank you to my guest today, Joanne Sherlock, for speaking with me on her experience as a tattoo studio owner. If you're interested in learning more about the studio, please visit the link in the description. I have been your host, Dawn Cross, and tune in next week for another episode. Insync is one of the UK's fastest growing insurance providers, offering comprehensive cover for SMEs and the self-employed across the UK. Our expert team can tailor your insurance to meet your individual business needs and compare prices from our Lloyd's of London approved partners. We offer a 5-star service and have been FIFO Platinum Trusted winners 4 years in a row.